Do you ever feel completely overwhelmed by just the sheer amount of mental clutter in your day-to-day life? Well, welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating, highly abstract spiritual text by an author named Feng. We're going to objectively decode the complex philosophical concepts he lays out for a movement known as Lifechanyuan. Whether you're a longtime student of modern spiritual philosophies or you're just genuinely curious about how different groups map out human enlightenment, we're going to break down these ideas step by step, straight from the source material itself.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our mental map for understanding this philosophy. First, the Chanyuan celestial concept. Second, the burden of the masses. Then we'll unpack the three core pillars: emptiness, spirit, and grace. And finally, we'll wrap up with the path to Lifechanyuan. Starting right off with Section 1, the Chanyuan celestial concept. So the entire text hinges on this elevated state of being that the author calls the Chanyuan celestial. But what does that actually mean? Well, the crucial point is that this state isn't just some random enlightenment. It follows a very strict sequential dependency right from the jump. It's kind of like a domino effect. According to Feng, it all starts when the mind is empty. That's domino number one. Only when the mind is empty can spiritual energy arise. And only when that spirit arises does a person become truly graceful. The author writes that Chanyuan celestials embody this exact sequence. This three-step formula really anchors our entire explainer today, so definitely keep this progression in mind as we go.
Which brings us to Section 2, the burden of the masses. To really grasp the author's solution, we first need to look at what he views as the core problem, and he doesn't mince words. Feng asserts that the vast majority of people are just deeply bogged down. He claims the masses have hearts filled with rubbish. He argues that while people might look active and lively on the outside, internally they are profoundly confused. In fact, he offers this almost mathematically frustrating critique of human communication. He complains that when he says 1, the masses confusingly jump straight to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Honestly, if you've ever asked for one simple thing at work and gotten a wildly complicated mess in return, you can probably relate to his frustration. He basically suggests people have ears but don't listen, and eyes but don't see. What's really interesting here is the stark duality he sets up. The author draws a hard, undeniable line between two types of existence. On one side, you have the masses. The text states they seek gold, which represents material wealth, worldly desires, and because of that, they end up with what he calls an illusory life. On the exact opposite side, you have the sages. Historically, according to this philosophy, sages have empty hearts. They seek the Tao, the fundamental nature of the universe, and by doing that, they ultimately accomplish their true lives.
So, this harsh contrast brings us to a direct, really pivotal question posed within the text itself. If human hearts are totally full of rubbish, how can one attain the Tao and become a Buddha? Let's unpack the text's proposed three-part solution. Kicking off with Section 3, emptiness, clearing the heart. This is the very first essential pillar of the solution. Step 1, emptiness. Now, the text defines emptiness not as some dark void or a state of absolute nothingness, but rather as an active clearing of space. It's about throwing away the self and completely clearing the heart of ego, fear, and desire. The author uses a highly practical metaphor here. Think about an empty house. It's incredibly useful precisely because it is empty. In that same way, an empty heart reveals a bright, celestial realm. By getting rid of the self, clarity can finally emerge. To illustrate exactly what needs to be hauled out to the curb, the text provides a litany of human fears and ambitions that act as this so-called rubbish. We're talking fear of death, poverty and loneliness, worry, anger, hatred. But here's the catch. It's not just negative emotions. It includes ambitions we actually celebrate in our modern hustle culture. Things like desiring to stand out, wanting to dominate your field, or seeking to leave a lasting legacy. According to this philosophy, every single one of those is a glaring symptom of a heart that isn't empty. The claim is that if your heart isn't empty, everything you try to hold on to will eventually be lost. And to achieve this total emptiness, the text gives a rather radical instruction. It literally says, do not be a good person nor a bad person. Do not do good deeds nor evil deeds. Do not seek truth nor falsehood. Talk about a complete abandonment of conventional human dualities, right? The philosophy argues that by dropping the constant pursuit of good versus evil, you stop generating mental clutter. You just return to your true nature, which equates to the nature of the Tao. Entering this state of non-judgment is what brings true life. Moving smoothly into Section 4, Spirit, the animating energy. Okay, so once that total emptiness is achieved, we hit domino number 2, Spirit.
In this context, spirit is defined as a vital, animating life force. It's the raw energy connecting all things. The text says mountains have spirit, which is why vegetation flourishes. Waters have spirit, which is why fish abound. For humans, spirit is the secret ingredient that provides infinite charm. But how do you get it once your heart is empty? Well, the text gives a very specific method. You have to fill that newly emptied space with the knowledge of the greatest creator. And this brilliantly illustrates the stakes of acquiring the spirit using a very grounded, earthy metaphor. With spirit, humans possess that infinite charm and they flourish, just like the natural world. But without it, the text does not hold back. A human without spirit is, quote, no better than an earthworm. Without this animating energy, people are just plagued by greed, laziness, and suffering. Essentially, all human misery stems from a heart that hasn't been touched by spirit. The author frequently leans on nature to describe this seemingly miraculous manifestation, stating, stones do not bloom, yet the sky creates colorful clouds. It's such beautiful, poetic imagery. It conveys this idea that spirit brings life and vibrant color to what otherwise seems totally barren. Just like empty land can unexpectedly sprout life, an empty heart infused with spirit can manifest incredible, colorful realities out of thin air. Which flows perfectly into Section 5. Grace, natural, simple beauty. This manifestation of spirit leads us to the final resulting state, domino number 3, grace. Once you have an empty mind and an animating spirit, grace is just the inevitable result. But notice how the text is very careful to define grace. It's not something artificial or overwhelming. It is a state of simple, natural elegance. It's explicitly not heavy makeup or flashy colors. It isn't a violent storm, but a gentle drizzle. It's not a fiery passion, but an unbreakable purity. It's a subdued, deeply alluring elegance that naturally radiates from someone who is spiritually aligned. To really capture this feeling, Shuofeng uses serene, classical imagery. The bright moon shines among the pine trees, and the clear spring flows over the rocks. That perfectly encapsulates what it feels like to live within grace as a Chanyuan celestial. It's not loud, it's not chaotic. It is peaceful, natural, and completely harmonious.
Finally, Section 6, the path to Lifechanyuan.
So we understand the concepts, right? But how do we actually apply them? The author brings all these highly abstract ideas back down to earth with a specific call to action. For all the complex philosophy we just unpacked, the text claims achieving this is actually quite simple. Seeking spirit is not difficult. Just enter Lifechanyuan. The author asserts that the most beautiful people in the world are already there, describing members as flawless and shining with spiritual light. It is presented as the literal communal destination for anyone wanting to take this spiritual journey. The text closes out with explicit instructions for anyone looking to transform from the burdened masses into a Chanyuan celestial. First, actively strive to find that space of emptiness, spirit, and grace. Second, don't just think about it. Plan your actual life around these 3 pillars. Third, spread your love to the world. And finally, the ultimate directive, join in building Lifechanyuan itself. So we've explored the complete framework of this philosophy, from the heavy burden of the masses all the way to the ethereal grace of the Chanyuan celestial. But it definitely leaves us with a profound question to chew on. Can true grace only be found by emptying the heart entirely of its desires and fears? Or is the human experience actually defined by the very rubbish we are told to discard? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll see you next time.